Do you want your worship team to sound like the pros, like Bethel, like Hillsong, like Elevation Worship? I'm sorry, I can't. In this video, we're going to be talking about how to arrange your worship team, how to improve your song arrangements so that your worship team does sound better. They sound like a professional recording, and it's actually a lot easier to do than you think. I think this is one of those cases where 20% of the work leads to 80% of the results. There's like a few really small things that you can do that will improve the sound of your team. And the first is simply this. It is to simply explain to your worship team that they need to arrange their songs, that we need to have a plan for the musical structure of our songs. If you think about it, most worship team members, if they're just joining a worship team for the first time, they probably haven't played with a band before. And if they have, it might have not been a good band. And so what do? They think, well, when I'm at home and I'm listening to a recording and I'm playing along with it, I'm not just gonna sit there for 2 minutes and wait until verse 2 to come in. I'm gonna play the whole time because playing is fun, and that's why I'm sitting down to play. So they have no concept of waiting to come in. And so we need to explain to our teams that, hey, now we are a band, and a band, we function each individually, seeking to bring out the dynamics of the song, but we also function collectively. So not only are you each your own individual instrument, but the entire band is an instrument that can be shaped and tuned and play high notes and play low notes and play dynamic ranges and leave certain musical elements out so that we can bring them in later to increase the dynamics. Most of your team is probably not thinking on that level. And that's why your team is playing the entire time. This is something that I usually have to tell new worship team members on my teams is, hey, you know what? You're going to come in. It's a running joke in my teams. Don't sing until verse 2. There's virtually no reason that a background singer should be singing on verse 1. I can think of no reason. Really, I'm trying to think of a reason. I'm sure there's some song where it starts off like some big anthem-like thing. But typically, probably 80% of the time, your background vocalist should not be singing on verse 1. And if you have 5 vocalists on your team, they don't all need to be singing on verse 1. If we want our songs to be dynamic, then they can all sing on verse 1 because there's going to be no dynamic difference between verse 1 and the final chorus of the song if your team just sings the whole way through. So now that you know that, teach that to your team. You got to tell them, listen, we are going to focus on arranging our songs, and I'm going to explain what that means, and here's what it means, and you can share this with your team. This is a freebie for you. Each song is a journey that we go on. Dynamically, we want to take our songs somewhere. There's peaks and there's valleys. And in order to get there, we have to do certain things. If we're all playing at the same time, all the time, as loud as we can, we're going to be at the peak the entire time. And then it's no longer a peak. It is just a flat walk, a flat journey through the song. But what makes a song interesting is peaks and valleys. So how do we do that? Individually, we do it as we think through, okay, how can I play louder or quieter in these spots in the songs? But beyond that, there are different techniques that we can use. Guitarists, are you going to play palm muted in this section? Are you going to finger pick? Are you going to play chord shapes low on the guitar neck? Or are you going to play thinner chord shapes up high on the guitar neck? Each of you have your own specific, instrumentally specific techniques. Keyboard player, are you just playing the right hand, or are you going to play the left hand as well? Or are you going to spread your left and right hand apart as far as possible, bang on the low keys, bang on the high keys, and open up the song dynamically just by doing that with your instrument? We have individual techniques that we can use, but we also have collective techniques that we can use, and most often that is people not playing or singing at certain parts of the song. So we use our individual techniques, but we also use our collective techniques. And that means some of you have to sit out at certain parts of the songs, and it's not because you aren't valuable. It's not because we don't love you. It's not because you're not talented. It's because we want to drive the dynamics of the songs in certain spots, and in certain spots, we want to back off and let them breathe. And the only way to do that is to not have everybody singing the entire time. So, over the next few weeks, we are going to focus on arranging our worship songs. And we're going to take a few worship songs that we know pretty well, and we're going to rework them and see how they sound different. That's what I would tell a team that I was trying to move in this direction of improving our worship song arrangements. So that's the foundational piece, but now how do we actually do it? Well, this is how I would do it. First of all, I would have our team listen to the original recording of a specific song. Take a song that your team knows really well. Not a new one that they have to learn. We'll do that eventually. But not a new one that they have to learn. One that they know well, where they don't have to focus on, okay, what chords am I playing? What words am I singing? Pick like the most popular song on your worship team that everybody knows and can play pretty much perfectly. And then listen to the original recording of it. Listen to the original artist play the song and tell them to listen for their specific part. Tell your guitar player on your team to listen. Where does the electric guitar come in? What parts are they playing? Tell your background vocalist to listen. Okay, listen for when the harmony comes in. Listen for that. Bass player, drummer, same thing. Listen for your part. See how the original artist plays it. And then, after you listen to that, pull up a recording from your live stream and say, okay, now this is what we sound like. Let's listen to our part and see what we did differently than the original recording, because we all agree that the original recording sounds pretty good. And then you listen to that. And then you ask the question, so what do you think we can do to improve? What could be different? We did certain things well. We sang the right notes. We played the right chords. But it felt like there was something missing, right? And we were missing those dynamics. How do we get them? And the answer is to copy the original arrangement. I'm not saying that you have to stay there forever and you're just always copying the original arrangement, but as your team is learning how to arrange songs, it makes sense to go through the process of listening and implementing a song that's already arranged and doing the arrangement that way so that then you can make it your own. We can't make things our own. We can't break the rules, so to speak, until we know what the rules are. So work within the confines of the rules and say, okay, guitar player, you're only going to play here because that's only when the person on the recording played. Background vocalist, you're only going to sing in verse 2 because that's when the background vocalist in the recording came in. Tell each member of your team what they should be doing, when they should come in. You won't have to do this every time for every song from here into eternity. They'll get the picture after a while, and then sit down and play through the song in the new way and listen to the difference. It's going to feel awkward at first for some people. Maybe let them know that. Vocalist, you're just going to be standing there on stage with the mic down at your side, not singing into the mic. What do you do during that time? You still sing along, just not into the microphone. And then when you finally come in, you will hear the impact that you make, and you will make a much bigger impact in that moment when you don't sing throughout the entire song than when you did when you first came in the song and sang the whole way throughout. And run through the song and let your team hear the difference. And I guarantee you that they will say, wow, that sounds a lot better. And it's not because they were dumb. It's not because they were bad musicians. They just simply didn't know. So copy the original arrangement as much as you can with the instrumentation that you have, and then just play that arrangement. Why? Because producers have been paid thousands of dollars to arrange these songs in a specific way. They know what they're doing. You don't. You will eventually. But if you're having this conversation, your team probably doesn't know what they're doing. So just copy what the person, the professional who got paid thousands of dollars to produce a song did, and it will sound like that. And that's really it. Just do that exercise. Explain that you need to arrange songs. Have them listen to their version of the song versus the original recording of the song. Have your team listen to it. And then implement the original arrangement of the song. And I guarantee that your team will be like, why haven't we been doing this all along? This sounds so much better. It's such a simple exercise, but people don't do it. And why don't they do it? Probably because they don't think that they have time to do it, or they don't know that they need to do it, but they don't have time to do it at their worship rehearsals, and that's why we've got to have a plan for our worship rehearsals. And if you want a plan for your worship rehearsal, check out the worship rehearsal blueprint. I'll link it down in the description below. It's 5 steps, 5 parts to the perfect worship rehearsal every single week that leads your team well musically, obviously, so that we can have time to do exercises like the one I just talked about, but also spiritually, so that your team grows closer to God, and relationally, so that your team grows closer to each other. As they pray together, as they spend time talking together, as they spend time running through their music together, and you have a plan for it. From 6 o'clock to 7:30, your entire rehearsal is already structured, and every second is accounted for. You will be able to lead your team well, and they will grow closer to God, grow closer to each other, and improve in their musicianship. So if you need a plan for your worship rehearsal and want to stop flying by the seat of your pants, check out the worship rehearsal blueprint. I'll link it down in the description below. Other than that, thanks so much for joining me. Till I see you in the next video. Keep leading worship well.